The midnight wind howled through the broken slats of the fence as Mason Hale, a 34-year-old single dad, drove the last nail in with numb fingers. His flannel shirt clung to his back, soaked with sweat and exhaustion. That's when he saw her, barefoot, breathless, standing in the moonlight like a ghost, a rich girl with tear-streaked cheeks and tangled hair. "You're the one I've been waiting for," she whispered. Mason blinked. Was she lost? Or was this the moment his life was about? To change forever? The final nail was in. Mason let out a quiet breath. It was past midnight, and his arms ached from hours of repairing the old fence that separated his run-down trailer from the open road. Each strike of the hammer had been less about fixing wood and more about silencing the chaos inside him. He had no money left after rent. His 6-year-old daughter Emily was asleep inside, clutching a one-eyed teddy bear. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for tonight, the fence was whole. The silence broke with the soft crunch of gravel. Mason turned sharply. A woman stood just outside the fence, barefoot and shivering in a silk dress that didn't belong anywhere near a dirt road in rural Tennessee. Her hair fell in loose curls. Her lips trembled. Not from cold, but from something deeper. Fear, shock. "Are you okay?" Mason called out, stepping cautiously forward. She didn't answer. She just stepped closer. I didn't mean to scare you," she said, voice shaking. "I just didn't know where else to go." Her feet were dirty, her arms covered, in goosebumps, the hem of her dress slightly torn. Mason felt something twist in his gut. She looked like someone who didn't belong here. Someone from a world where money fixed problems before they started. "Did someone hurt you?" he asked, his voice lowering, a protective edge forming. She nodded slowly. Then her eyes caught on the rusted swing set behind him. "This house? This fence? I've been here before." Mason frowned. "I don't think so." "I have," she said softly. "When I was 10. With my mother. Before she died." That hit Mason like a slap. "This place used to belong to the Lockwoods. They lost it years ago. Bank seized it before I bought it." She let out a broken laugh. "I am a Lockwood. Belle Lockwood." That name didn't just mean wealth. It was practically royalty around here. The Lockwoods owned half the valley. They were whispered about, as if untouchable. Yet here she was, barefoot, shaking, alone. Mason opened the gate and stepped aside. "Come inside. It's warm. I'll make some tea." She hesitated. "You don't have to explain," he added gently. "Just come in." She stepped through, barefoot on the wood porch. Mason noticed how often she glanced over her shoulder, like she expected someone to come storming after her. Inside, the trailer was humble but clean. He laid out a towel for her feet, handed her a blanket, and started the kettle. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, sitting on the edge of the old sofa, her voice barely above a whisper. He didn't look at her as he answered. "Because I've been down too, and someone once opened their door for me when they didn't have to." She stared at him. "I lost my wife 3 years ago," Mason continued. "If someone had helped her that night, maybe she'd still be here." That silenced her. When he finally turned, her eyes were glistening. "I didn't expect kindness tonight," she said. "Not anymore." "Then I'm glad I surprised you," Mason replied. They sat in silence, sipping tea while the heater hummed. Outside, the world was filled with betrayal, money, and the shadows chasing her. But in that moment, it all felt distant, quiet. Neither of them knew the Lockwood name would shake the whole town within 24 hours. And Mason's life would never be the same again. Mason didn't sleep that night. He sat in the old recliner, watching the living room in the dim glow of the stovetop bulb. Belle Lockwood slept restlessly on the couch, curled beneath a flannel blanket. Her expensive dress wrinkled, her face twisted in some quiet fear. He didn't know what she was running from. But whatever it was, it left bruises, not on her skin, but somewhere deeper. By sunrise, she was awake. Mason was flipping pancakes. Emily tugged at his shirt. "Daddy," she whispered. "Who's that lady?" He knelt beside her. "She's someone who needed help. Be kind, okay?" Emily nodded solemnly. "Like, Mr. Parker helped us when our tire popped." "Exactly." He kissed her forehead. Belle sat quietly at the table, holding a mug in both hands, like it was the last warmth she had. When Emily handed her a drawing, a crooked heart with stick figures, Belle's eyes welled. "Thank you," she whispered. "That's the first thing anyone's given me in a long time that didn't come with strings attached." After breakfast, Mason walked her outside. Daylight revealed her full face, high cheekbones, delicate jaw, eyes too tired for her age. "I need to tell you something," she said, eyes on the fence. "I figured," Mason said, leaning against a post. "My father," she began. "He cut me off, kicked me out of the estate, last night, in front of 30 people, said I was a disgrace for refusing an arranged engagement." Mason's brow tightened. "I said no, because the guy's a liar, a fraud. My father's company is crumbling in debt. They needed the merger. I was the currency." Her voice cracked. "So I walked out." Mason stayed quiet. Let her speak. "I tried going to my friend's place. She turned me away, said she didn't want Lockwood trouble. I ended up here, barefoot, like some scene out of a nightmare. Then I saw the fence. I remembered it. My mom used to bring me here when she was dying. Said it was the only place she ever felt safe." She looked up. "I didn't know who lived here now, but when I saw you working, I don't know. I felt like I could breathe." Mason scratched the back of his neck. "I'm no therapist, but if you're looking for someone who doesn't care about your last name, you found him." Belle smiled faintly, then hesitated. "Would you let me stay? Just for a few days. I'll help with chores, cooking, whatever you need." Mason studied her. He had every reason to say no. She was chaos, a Lockwood. She didn't belong in his barely holding together life. But she was also honest, shattered, brave enough to walk barefoot into the night to protect her dignity. "You can stay," he said, "but you'll have to deal with Emily asking 500 questions a day." Belle laughed, a real, aching laugh. "I think I can handle that." 2 days later, Belle was scrubbing the kitchen floor when Mason got the call. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Mason Hale?" the voice said. "Detective Pierce, Franklin County PD. We need to ask some questions about a missing person. Belle Lockwood." Mason's stomach dropped. "She's not missing," he said, glancing at her through the doorway. "She's been reported missing by her father. He's offering a reward for tips." "She's safe," Mason replied. "And she doesn't want to be found." A pause. "Are you saying she's with you?" "I'm saying she's not a child. And maybe instead of sending cops, her father should ask why his daughter ran away barefoot in the middle of the night." He hung up. Belle was watching him, towel in hand. "They called you, didn't they?" "Yeah." "What did you say?" "That you're staying." Silence settled between them. Then Belle walked over, looked him straight in the eye. "No one's ever stood up for me like that," she whispered. And Mason, who hadn't let anyone in since his wife's death, felt something crack. The barefoot heiress had walked into his life like a storm. But storms come with thunder, and the real downpour hadn't even begun. 3 days later, the storm arrived. Not in the sky, but in the form of 2 black SUVs, windows tinted, rolling to a slow stop outside Mason's trailer. He stepped outside, shielding his eyes from the glare. He didn't need a badge to know. This wasn't a social call. The back door creaked open. A tall, graying man in a custom charcoal suit stepped out, flanked by two stone-faced men in black. His jaw was razor-sharp, his smile cold and artificial, and his presence seemed to chill the air around him. Belle stepped out behind Mason and stopped dead. Her breath caught in her throat. Dad. Randall Lockwood. The man whose name shook boardrooms, whose signature crushed competitors, and who had humiliated his only daughter just 3 nights ago in front of a crowd. "You've made quite the scene, sweetheart," he said smoothly, brushing imaginary dust off his sleeve. "Running away barefoot like some fairy tale fugitive." Mason moved between them, protective, without hesitation. "She doesn't want to go with you." Randall's eyes narrowed. "And you are?" "Someone who treats her like a human being." Randall's lips curled into a sneer. "She's my daughter. You're a mechanic with a leaky roof and a child who draws on the walls." Mason's fists balled, but Belle reached for his wrist. "Don't! He wants you angry." Randall stepped forward. "This little rebellion of yours, it ends now. Get in the car." Belle's voice quivered, but she stood her ground. "No." His face twitched. "Excuse me?" "I said no, Father. I'm not your pawn anymore. You wanted me to marry for business, for control. I refused, and you tossed me out like I was a broken investment." His voice dropped, venomous. "Do you think this man can protect you? A backwards handyman with a rusting truck?" "No," she said, steady. "But he has something you never will. A heart." Silence. Even the wind stilled. Randall's composure slipped, his fists clenched. Then, in a curt motion, he turned to his men. "We're done here." The SUVs rolled away. Mason looked at her. That was brave and insane. She laughed, wiping tears from her cheeks. "I've always been insane. I just never knew how free it felt." That night, Belle made spaghetti, garlic toast, and poured store-brand lemonade. Mason watched her dance barefoot in the kitchen with Emily twirling and laughing, and it hit him. He was falling for her. Not for her name or past, but for the woman who scrubbed his floors, helped his daughter with math, and stood up to the most ruthless man in Tennessee. But storms don't pass quietly. 2 weeks later, Mason came home late from a welding job. The porch light flickered. The front door was ajar. His heart dropped. He burst in. "Belle? Emily?" Then he saw her. Belle sat on the couch, hands trembling, a letter in her lap. Emily was safe, asleep in her room. "What happened?" She handed him the letter without a word. It was from the Lockwood Family Trust. Following the death of her maternal grandmother, her inheritance, $7.8 million, had been fully released, effective immediately. Mason sat down hard. You didn't know?" She shook her head. "My father always said my mother left nothing, that we owed everything to him. But this was hidden, buried, probably to control me. So, you're rich." She looked away. "I don't care about the money. I care about what he'll do when he finds out I know." "You have a choice now," Mason said. "You could take it and disappear." She nodded slowly. "Or I could fight." "What would your mom do?" Her eyes lit with something fierce. She'd burn his empire down, not for revenge, but to free everyone he used the way he used me. That night, neither of them slept. They sat at the kitchen table surrounded by legal papers and bank documents, as if mapping out hidden ruins. The clock ticked, the heater groaned, but nothing was louder than the thoughts screaming in their heads. "This account's real?" Mason finally asked, his fingers brushing the embossed seal. "I verified it. My mother's lawyer held it in a silent trust. My father couldn't touch it, and now, it's mine." He leaned back, stunned. "So, what now?" "I'm going to dismantle my father's illusion, quietly, legally, every lie, every cover-up. The world's going to see who he really is." Mason watched her. Not the barefoot girl he found hiding in the dark, but a woman forged in fire. "I want you with me," she said softly. "Me?" He blinked. "You've seen what I am. I fix fences. I change spark plugs. I don't know anything about corporate warfare." She smiled. "But you know people. You know truth. And when everything's built on lies, someone like you is exactly who I need." In the dead of night, they made a plan. 2 weeks later, Nashville. The Lockwood Foundation Charity Gala, the biggest event of the year. Cameras flashed, violins played, and gold glitter fell from chandeliers. Randall Lockwood stood smiling, surrounded by empty praise. He didn't know Bell had bought the largest stake in Lockwood Enterprises using 3 shell corporations. He didn't know his top accountant had agreed to hand over falsified ledgers in exchange for immunity. And he didn't know that inside the very building where he posed for press, his daughter now stood. No makeup, no designer flair, just fire and steel. Mason was beside her, clean-shaven, nervous. "I feel like a fish in a shark tank," he muttered. "You're not the one bleeding," she replied. "He is." At exactly 9:17 p.m., Bell walked past security. No announcement, just silence. When Randall turned, he froze. The crowd followed his gaze and gasped. "Sweetheart," he said, voice tight. "You're alive." "No thanks to you," she replied. "This is not the place." "You're right. The courtroom will be." She lifted her phone and tapped a button. Screens lit up around the ballroom. Bank records, secret memos, illegal payments, employee abuse, tax fraud. The Lockwood legacy crumbled in 10 seconds. "You'll destroy everything," he whispered. "No," Bell said. "I'm just telling the truth. What happens next? That's on you." And she walked away. A month later, Randall Lockwood was indicted on 13 counts of fraud. His reputation was shredded. His empire toppled. Bell donated half her inheritance to support single mothers and girls aging out of foster care. Mason opened a new garage, clean, warm, with a kid's corner for Emily and a sign out front. "Hale's Honest Fix," built with heart. People came because they trusted him. And on slow nights, Bell sat on the porch with Mason and Emily, sipping sweet tea, watching the sunset. "Do you ever miss the mansion?" he asked. She looked at the cracked steps, the laughter inside, the dirt road that led her here. "I never felt more like myself than the night I walked here with nothing." Mason wrapped an arm around her. "Well, you've got something now." She smiled. "Yeah, I've got everything." The fence still stood, stronger now, freshly painted by Belle herself. The same fence where she first appeared barefoot in the dark, where everything changed and she never looked back. Belle sat at the kitchen table flipping through papers. Not legal ones this time, but school enrollment forms, business license updates, and volunteer coordination schedules. Her life had shifted, but in many ways, it had only just begun. "I got a call from Nashville this morning," she said without looking up. Mason raised an eyebrow. "Good or bad?" She smiled. "Very good. They're offering me a board seat at the Women's Recovery Shelter. They want me to oversee grant allocations and education programs." He leaned against the counter, sipping his coffee. "That's huge." "It is," she replied, her voice quiet. "And I'm scared, but I also feel right. Like I'm finally doing what my mother would have done, not building empires, building people." He walked over and kissed the top of her head. "That's what makes you different." Then Emily burst in, hair tangled, pajamas rumpled. "Can we have pancakes with the smiley faces again?" Mason laughed. "Of course, baby." Belle bent down. "I'll help. I get to draw the eyes." As they cooked together, Mason watched them. His daughter full of trust, Belle full of love, and him full of something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Weeks later, at the Lockwood estate auction, Belle stood in the marble foyer of her childhood home. Chandeliers were boxed, portraits removed. The grandeur was stripped bare. Her father's empire was being sold piece by piece. She wasn't here for revenge. She was here for closure. Randall Lockwood, under house arrest until sentencing, sat slouched in an armchair. He looked smaller now, worn. Just a man. A broken man. "I didn't think you'd come," he muttered. "I didn't come for you," Belle said. "I came to walk away." He looked up, more human than he'd ever seemed. "You really loved him, didn't you? Your mother?" Belle nodded. "And she loved this place, but not for the chandeliers or the ballrooms. She loved the little garden behind the fence." Randall exhaled. "You sound just like her." "No," Belle whispered. "I am her now." She turned to leave, but paused. "Despite everything, I hope one day you figure out how to love something more than your reflection." She left without looking back. 6 months later, the town's autumn festival was in full swing. Kids with sticky candy fingers ran through the streets. Folk music drifted from the gazebo. Under a tree near the food stands, Mason held Belle's hand while Emily sat on his shoulders, waving a tiny flag. "You know," Belle said, squeezing his fingers, "I used to think love had to come in grand gestures, diamond rings, private jets." He looked down at her, smiling. "And now?" "Now I know it looks like midnight fences, broken to-do lists, and pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse." They shared a laugh as the mayor stepped to the mic. "And now, a big thank you to our very own Belle Lockwood, who's asked to be introduced by her new name, Brielle Hale." The crowd clapped. Mason froze and turned to her. She smiled up at him, eyes glistening. "I figured it was time." "You serious?" "Completely," she said. "This life, this love, this little town, it's all I ever needed. Not $5 million dresses or private estates. Just people who see me, not the Lockwood name." He took her face in his hands, heart thudding. "You sure you want to be stuck with a broke mechanic forever?" She grinned. "You're not broke. You're rich where it counts." Then she kissed him. And behind them, the town cheered. Not for the A-list scandal or the downfall of power, but for the woman who walked barefoot into kindness and never looked back.